Ladies and gentlemen, what we learn in school becomes the bedrock of our future. For doctors, what they learn in medical school becomes the foundation of healthcare in their countries. So when the curriculum is changed and it becomes blind to disability rights and LGBT sensitivities, it needs to be called out. And it is being called out in India after the National Medical Council issued its new curriculum. Now, just so you know, the NMC, that's the National Medical Council, is an autonomous body under the Health Ministry that regulates all medical education in India. The NMC, in a fit of inspiration, revised its curriculum for undergraduate medical students and has put lesbianism and sodomy under the category of unnatural sexual offence. Ladies and gentlemen, need I remind you and the NMC that 6 years ago, the Supreme Court of India legalized same-sex relations as long as they were consensual. So honestly, what is the NMC thinking? Do they not know the law of this land, or are they a law unto themselves? It doesn't stop there. In a bizarre move that smacks of moral policing, the distinction between consensual gay sex and offences such as incest and bestiality has been done away with. Yani everything is the same. A crime. According to the NMC, being transgender is a perversion. Disability is not something that first-year students in India need to be sensitized to. Needless to say, the NMC's tone-deaf curriculum has drawn the ire of all, including the LGBT+ community. Now, we have put in a request to the National Medical Council for a response. So far, we haven't heard from them. As and when we do, we put their side of the story as well. But let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, when we were inviting for the debate this evening, none of the guests you see, none of the doctor guests that you see here on Mirror Now agreed to come for the show because they all felt that what the NMC had done was tone deaf. My guest this evening, Dr. Satendra Singh, is a doctor with disabilities, agent of change, and he's a director at the UCMS. Thank you very much. He's someone, by the way, who's also written to the health minister of this country regarding the NMC's new tone-deaf curriculum. He's joining us on the broadcast. Thank you, doctor, for being with us. Anish Gawande is an LGBTQ+ activist joining us here on the show. Dr. Surabhi Mitra, I beg your pardon, is a psychiatrist with us this evening. The lone person who's defending the NMC this evening is Dr. J.A. Jayalal. He's a former national president of the IMA. Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, very much for being here. Dr. Singh, I'm going to start with you. Since you are the one who has written to the Health Minister of India, what are the concerns you have raised? What is it that really upsets you about this curriculum? Look, the curriculum is a large, big thing. I'm sure not all things are bad. I'm sure not all things are tone deaf. But these examples certainly tell you that people making the curriculum are simply not aware of the law of this land.
Yeah, thank you so much, Shreya. I would like to tell one thing, that in the month of September last year, the National Medical Commission was paying $60,000 to World Federation of Medical Education for its recognition. During the same time, at the United Nations General Assembly, the introduction of disability rights as disability competency in the MCI curriculum was highlighted as best practice from the Global South, from Incredible India, our own country. During the same time, in the month of August, the Honorable Supreme Court of India, they issued guidelines and handbook on how to combat gender stereotypes. And what is happening now? In May this year, the Honorable Supreme Court of India introduced the term pregnant persons and not pregnant women. So our Supreme Court of India, our legislations within India are showing the right pathway forward. On the contrary, people at the National Medical Commissions are taking us decades back. What they are doing is that there are two laws, Transgender Persons Act 2019 and Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act 2016. The new guidelines are violating both of them. Because as you mentioned very rightly, Section 377 has been struck off. So who has given the right that the future medical students in our country would read these things which are pejorative, regressive, and illegal? Second thing also, there is another one more thing in the new curriculum, which is admission criteria for students with disabilities. Now suddenly MCI is famous for its U-turns, NMC. They have taken another U-turn and they have said in new guidelines that people with low vision impairment and impairment are not eligible for MBBS. Dear National Medical Commission, which is headed by a psychiatrist, a former director of the NIMHANS, who has the responsibility for maintaining, implementing the disability rights in India, what they have done is that already Supreme Court of India in Ashutosh Puruswani has allowed low vision candidates in MBBS. Again, Delhi High Court in Tina Sharma matter has again a person with hearing impairment to do MBBS. So why they are going regressive, why they are going backwards, and why they are not here to answer the questions which you are rightly putting.
Dr. Singh, correct me if I'm wrong, but the curriculum is also invisibilizing people with disability. It simply doesn't want to see them. Could you tell us what exactly the curriculum has done, which just put disability rights to the back burner, apart from this admission criteria?
Right. So based on my advocacy in 2019, when the competency-based first came, then that time it was the Medical Council of India. So based on my judicial advocacy, again, we have to go to courts. Based on that, 7 hours of disability rights and disability competencies were introduced into the foundation courts. Now they are nowhere in the new foundation course of 2 weeks. What is there is that mandatory 8 hours of sports. There is a protected time for sports, but not for things which are mandatory in section 39F of the Disabilities Act.
Amazing.
So there are no ifs and buts. There is a legal foundation on them to talk about transgender rights, to talk about disability rights. Both of these are invisible, omitted out.
And the NMC, the National Medical Council, the apex body in this country under the Health Ministry that regulates all medical education in this country, has done away with that. Playing sport is more important for doctors than knowing about disability rights, essentially. That tells you what the priority is. I'm wondering whether this is moral policing. How do you look at it? I mean, as someone who advocates for the LGBT+ community, Anish Gawande, how do you look at this? When NMC issued its new curriculum, very proudly they said, and I'm just quoting them here, they said, these new guidelines will help medical education more learner-centric, more patient-centric, more gender-sensitive, and more environment-appropriate. Now, it can't be gender-sensitive and environment-appropriate if your panel doesn't have anyone from the LGBT+ community, or if your panel doesn't have anyone from the disabled community. How do you make it inclusive in any case?
Shreya, when I woke up to the headline what the NMC had done this morning, I started laughing because there's no other reaction to this. This is a laughable policy and laughable curriculum introduced by a council that does not have any understanding of the law. 2 years ago, in 2022, when Madras High Court laid down its judgment on conversion therapy, the NMC had to revise its own guidelines and issue a circular to say that you had to sort of be LGBTQ+ sensitive in the policies in your curriculum. And I don't want to wear my political hat on your show tonight because I'm here in a very different capacity, but this really shows the abject misgovernance present in the NMC today. The MCI was replaced by the NMC to much fanfare by the government a couple of years ago, exactly almost 5 years ago. But ever since, there's been no management of the NMC in a proper way. For several months, the NMC was without a director until Mr. Gangadhar, who was the interim director, was forced to become its formal director. He's been the head of NIMHANS, and I'm sure he would not have approved this. But the reality is that several other posts within the NMC are lying vacant. This is a body created after much fanfare that simply is understaffed, overworked, and unable to do its job. So the responsibility falls squarely on the Health Ministry. It's not a representative body. It does not have representation from the sort of differently abled community or the LGBTQ community, or indeed from women, because the sort of things that are said about hymen tests and virginity are so archaic that it feels like this NMC has cut, copy, pasted the curriculum from an 18th century Victorian era textbook. So one really wonders, I mean, in the age of ChatGPT, you would expect that the NMC would at least be able to do something slightly better than this, but you just have to laugh because this is incompetence of the highest order. I really don't know what is going on.
Dr. Surbhi Mitra, what do you do? Do you laugh? Or do you simply get angry when you realize that medical students in this country the first years, in the second years, third years, will be taught that lesbianism is a crime. And that being transgender is a perversion. Because the NMC is telling that, irrespective of what the Supreme Court of India has said.
Exactly. Actually, when I saw this news today, I wasn't laughing, but the word I wrote on my social media was disgusted. I was literally disgusted that आप एक पैर सामने ले रहे हो, फिर एक पैर पीछे ले रहे हो. I mean, just one step ahead and probably more than 10 steps back. And yeah, it is a Victorian law. It is a British law. The law, I mean, I don't understand how you can label it as a sexual offense when Section 337 has been decriminalized, when the Supreme Court is clearly saying that it is absolutely legal. Then how can you put this in a medical curriculum? Secondly, when I was a first year, second year student, when I was doing my MBBS, I remember that lesbianism was under unnatural sexual offenses and being a transgender was perversion. And it was labeled together, I mean, it was clumped together with bestiality and other non-consensual sexual activities, transvestism, voyeurism, and whatnot. I mean, how can you compare consensual sexual acts in between two adults and then talk about bestiality in the same tone? So it was very ridiculous. It was disgusting for me. And similarly, honestly, speaking about the truth, that when I came out publicly, when I had my ceremony, I remember a lot of medical students coming out. Now, so when you're teaching medical students this, then how are you expecting them to be more open and treat more patients in a gender sensitive or sexuality based sensitive era? So that is absolutely wrong. And of course, you know, as there is this medical graduates association, in that we expect that a medical graduate should be, you know, learned in research, should be more sensitive regarding things, and we are taking them back again and again. I, being this year's IPS, that is Indian Psychiatric Society's LGBT task force representative and the convener, we are going to write a very strong worded letter to the NMC. And also I have spoken to, you know, Sweekar, the Rainbow Parents group. I have spoken to Indian Psychologist Society as well. We are all moving forward and writing a strong worded letter together.
Dr. Singh, but you have written many strong worded letters to the NMC. Did you hear back from them when you raised these concerns?
No, absolutely not. That is really funny. Probably they have no answers to give.
Dr. Singh, would you want to answer that question?
Yeah. In fact, way back in April itself this year, you know, we wrote to the National Medical Commission because NMC also has a capacity building program for the faculty members. And during that time, when I attended that thing, there was no talk on gender inclusion, gender expression, on disability inclusion, which was, you know, very strange to me. So that time itself, on 12th of April this year, I wrote a letter to the National Medical Commission. And again, in August, I wrote a second letter that the new batch is coming in 2024 in October. So please include these things. But there was not a single response from them. I filed a RTI now too.
Dr. Jailal, how will you even defend this? And I'm frankly very worried about what future doctors in the country are going to be learning if this syllabus holds. There is so much controversy. Hopefully there is a rethink. But how do you even defend things like calling lesbianism a sexual offense?
Yeah, I am representing Indian Medical Association, not NMC. I was also laughing because when this NMC was introduced by Harshvardhan in the parliament, he said, we are adopting the system in Uganda and Tanzania and that country which we has mentioned, the 4 countries. That was like Uganda and Tanzania were the role model for Harshvardhan ji when he was introducing the NMC. Now it is coming true. NMC has been proved again and again. They are the people who are for U-turn, doing one thing at a time and doing that because they are having a knee reaction, not a represented body. We absolutely side with the Singh and the entire team which is fighting for that. Even Indian Medical Association always in for the people with LGBT. Our World Medical Association has a separate wing to talk about this. But it is quite unfortunate when the Supreme Court is saying something and the NMC is coming out and I feel, I mean, I can only defend it must be a graphical error or it must be a clerical error. It has without the proper knowledge. You don't worry, within 1 or 2 they will get it back because they are used to, they are known for that. They will put
Jailal, so
and
many
when there is
clerical
somebody
errors. Dr. Jailal.
so that I feel, because
Dr.
otherwise
Jailal, so
any
many clerical errors.
any common sensible man will not put
No,
a,
to me this
order like
seems,
this. So if at least
which
it
is
is
why I'm
coming,
very
what
worried about
I
who's running the NMC and the sort of education that medical students in this country are going to get. Anish Gawande, do you think this is a clerical error? Because there are way too many.
no,
To me,
I'm not
honestly,
saying it's a clerical
when
error.
I
I
look
say
at
that
what is being said
NMC
about
will
the
come back
LGBT
and say
plus
that it could
community,
be a
it looks
clerical
to me
error.
like it's moral policing. And
Absolutely.
I'm fairly certain that the NMC knew exactly what
You know,
they were
Shreya,
doing. Just a minute,
the
Dr.
point.
Jela. I'm fairly certain the NMC knew what it was doing because in 2022, let me remind our viewers that after a Madras High Court order, they had to change the wording in the stance as far as the LGBT plus community is concerned, as far as disability rights are concerned. Now to do away with all of that and go
Absolutely.
back to a model that really doesn't gel with the times we live in, according to me, I don't think this is a clerical error.
You know, Shreya, there are two ways of looking at this, right? The first is that it was willful and it was done purposely. Now, in this case, the NMC has a lot more to answer for, particularly because the government has been trying to paint itself as progressive by allowing LGBTQ plus couples to have ration cards together and to open bank accounts together. So it's then clearly incongruous with the stance of the government. So the government then must know what the left hand is doing, because currently the left hand and the right hand are doing entirely different things. It's a clerical error, as it might be, and it's going to be reversed in ways. I want to ask, who is going to take accountability for the amount of hate speech that has spread across the internet because of this decision? It has emboldened so many people online to make homophobic, transphobic, anti-differently able statements, because they have upheld this as the government of India, as the NMC upholding these stances. You have unleashed the floodgates for hate, and then you're going to apologize for it, reverse your decision, and take no accountability for your actions. This really can't be allowed to continue. This is truly unfortunate, and I think somebody has to take accountability for what has happened.
Dr. Satendra Singh, do you think it's deliberate? I mean, it's certainly tone deaf, but if I'm thinking to myself, was ChatGPT used to make this curriculum? And if it was, ChatGPT would have certainly done its research better than whoever framed it and at least known the law of the land before putting things down which are in complete violation of the law. Do you think this was deliberate?
No, this was, this was no clerical error. This was probably deliberate. I tell you why. The letter which you said post, Kerala and Madras High Court, the NMC secretary, they made a committee. Who was the chairperson of that committee? The chairperson of that committee was Dr. Vijayendra. And their task was to weed out the homophobic and queerphobic content from the undergraduate medical education curriculum. Now, who has issued these guidelines? These guidelines, there are three boards in the National Medical Commission. One is for undergraduate medical education, for graduate, and then ethics. So the president and of the person who has signed this undergraduate medical education curriculum is the same person who was the chairperson, Dr. Vijayendra. So how can you say that this is a typographical error when the person who was appointed post the heckling from the two honorable courts was the chairperson, and that person is signing along with Dr. Aruna Vanika? How can you say that this was a casual error? This was not a casual error. The second thing, there are two cases going on in Delhi High Court currently, which the council, the legal council of the National Medical Commission on the disability guidelines said that no, there is some problem in this because this will be changed. So it was specifically to the medical admission for disabled candidates from 2025. So their councils are clueless, their undergraduate board is clueless, the chairperson is clueless. It is an entire mess, and definitely there should be rolling of hats. Definitely, I mean there are only two people in the undergraduate board. If they can't do their job, if they are so incompetent, job.
Dr. Surabhi Mitra, last word to you. Fact is that the NMC's new guidelines have been out for the last 48 hours, right? So far, it's only after one has read the guidelines do we know what exactly it entails. We've spoken about, how it's tone deaf to the LGBT plus community, to people who are disabled, but there is also a chapter on women, on on the curriculum talking about the hymen, the importance of virginity, etc. How do you look at that? मैं वही कह रही हूँ, मुझे तो ये moral pudding लग रही है, moral lecture लग रहा है, instead of a medical curriculum.
Yeah, it mostly seems to be anti-women, honestly speaking. And regarding the hymen and vagina and virginity and all of these things, they have been discussed since ages. And we clearly know that in many women, hymen doesn't even exist since birth. And it cannot be a test for virginity. And even after that, why do you need to test for virginity? Do men get tested for virginity? No. Secondly, now we know that the recent Artikar case becoming very famous and the headlines almost internationally. So did we do the two-finger test to check that whether Amita was raped or not? The Arjikar victim? I mean, do we even talk about this? No, because it is absolutely ridiculous. It is absolutely disgusting. It is immoral, unethical, and illegal to talk in such sense. And we are putting this up in a medical curriculum, teaching the future of the nation, the future doctors about this. So I don't have words. I mean, I literally don't have words. And, I remember that 2 to 3 years back, NMC clearly told us, like the medical students, and especially in psychiatry, we were told that LGBTQ sensitization should be done. Even disability sensitization should be done in all medical colleges, especially of the first year MBBS students. Now, I remember I used to go around all over India talking about LGBTQ basics to teach first year MBBS students. Now, what am I supposed to do after this NMC newer statement? Now, probably even I would get homophobic and transphobic comments in the future. Who knows?
Okay, so here's the thing. Here's the way I'm looking at it. The NMC is the apex body in this country that regulates all medical education in India. Are they spreading disinformation? The answer to that is a big yes, which is why they probably need to relook their curriculum and make the U-turns that they are so famous for.
And
in this
I
case,
agree
I
with
hope
the
that
point that
happens.
it is
Dr.
it was
Satendra Singh, thank you very much
deliberate.
for joining. Okay, you agree with the fact that it was deliberate. Let's see. We are waiting to hear from the NMC. In the last 48 hours, not heard from them. We've written to them. We hope they will speak to Mirror now or speak to someone and we can quote them. We would want to put their side of the story for our viewers as well. But dear viewers, so far the NMC is simply quiet. What else can we say? Dr. Satendra Singh, thank you very much for joining us. Anish, thank you very much. Dr. Surabhi, thanks very much. And Dr. Jailal, you have done a U-turn. Dr. Jailal, you have done a U-turn on this show. I was told that you are defending the NMC. But you also decided last minute after hearing all the speakers, ki nahi bhaiya, this is not a safe position to take.
Nobody can defend the NMC.
Then is something which
Anyhow.
cannot be, nobody can support. It's totally beyond that comprehension. Even
No,
something
you took the right stand as it were.
Yeah, thank you.
You took the right stand as it were. I have no complaints against that, except that when there is a debate, you expect another point of view as well. In this case, well, there was no other point of view. Thank you, Dr. Jailal, for joining us as well.